All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode one of Books with Bros. I'm Khalil. This is my brother Hunter, and let's get into it. Now, since this is the first episode, I'll let you know what to expect from Books with Bros. Just to keep this short and to the point, we review books. Now, we'll give you what our expectations are of what we thought the expectations would be going into the book, and then if it lived up to that or not. We'll talk about what we loved about the book or what we didn't love about the book, maybe both, and give you some of the moments that stood out the most to us as we were reading, and answer a couple of questions, and we'll rate the book as well. Now, if you are a book lover and if you want to start reading more, you're in the right place. Please like and subscribe. Now, for our first episode, we will be reviewing Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. Boom. Also
Mhm.
have it up on the screen. I know y'all see it, but got it right next to me too. Now, Empire of Silence is the first book in the Sun Eater series. Currently, there are six books out, with the seventh book releasing later this year. It is a sci-fi fantasy space opera set in the distant future. Now, it's mankind has learned to travel through space. It follows our main character, Hadrian Marlowe. He's remembered as a hero and a monster. He destroyed a sun and killed 4 billion humans and burned every alien from the sky. Now, this series told from his perspective and as a memoir. So he's writing to let us know he isn't a hero. He isn't a monster, and how he had to fight for a war he didn't start, for an empire he doesn't love, and against an enemy he'll never understand. Now, let's get right into it. Let's see.
Good synopsis.
Yep, good synopsis. Now, why did we pick this book to start our podcast? And nice and simple. I read it and loved it, and Hunter wanted to get into it. He just finished it. That's the main.
Perfect book.
Yep,
Yep.
perfect book to
Perfect book
start
to start.
start the podcast with. Now, I guess let's see. Before reading the book, what were your expectations, Hunter?
Uh, my expectations for the series overall are super high. Um, from what I've heard from not only you but multiple other book talkers and stuff, this is 1A, 1B of the new generation of sci-fi, sci-fi books. So for that alone, my expectations was super high. Now for this book alone, Empire of Silence, not super high because you kind of let me know ahead of time, like, hey, this is the world building book. This is the get to know your characters book.
Mhm.
This isn't the crazy book. So I went into this book thinking that. I'm really glad that I had someone like you to say that, because if I didn't, then this book could have definitely not went on. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, so that's my expectations. I kept them pretty simple for the
Yep.
first book.
Yeah, same with me. Even although I didn't have anyone specific to just tell me what to expect, but like the reason I read it was just because of book talkers and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I didn't hear like one like amazing. It was never about the Empire Silence. Anytime I
Right. It's
heard the
about the
book
other
talk
books.
already, it was about the other books. It was like this
Yep.
is really good. They never bashed the first book by any means, but it was like when they talked about the Sun Eater series, it was like Demon in White, Demon in White,
Right.
Demon in
Yep.
White,
That's all I heard. Yep.
which is the third book in the series. So I'm like, okay, cool. Just lower expectations for this first book, but high expectations for the series for sure. I guess as far as like after I finished the book, I don't know. I mean, I guess it met the expectations just because I didn't have high expectations anyway.
Uh,
I
yep.
mean, it was a good book, and it did. I wasn't prepared for how it was written. As a memoir, I didn't. That wasn't what I was expecting. To be fair, I didn't know what to really expect. I didn't
Right.
have a lot going into the book outside of just reading the back cover of the book, um, and hearing a couple reviews. But no, it was a good book, and I don't know, like you said, I don't know if I would have kept reading it without knowing how good the third books were, but maybe I would, because I mean I was interested. It just wasn't like I definitely wouldn't have picked it right back up. I don't think I was like almost like right
Right.
good part.
Right. Yeah, same. I mean, my expectations were met because they weren't super high. I pretty much read this book to get to the other books. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's really it. And I definitely agree. If this was a like you know, if this was the first book coming out and this was the only book out, and someone said, "Hey, go check this book out," I read it. I'd say, "Okay, cool. I like the author. He's
Yep.
unique writing style." But man, I don't know.
I wouldn't be fiending for the second book by
No,
any
no, no,
means,
no,
or
no.
like looking forward to it. And there's a chance that like, I mean, it takes time for authors to release books. Like I read this when it first came out, and I wouldn't like the second book dropped. I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it maybe. That's
Right.
really where I'd be at. Like maybe I'll read it. I got other
Yeah.
things I would rather read.
Right, definitely. My TBR list is never ending. So yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's just definitely just a slow burn book. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. It's really a slow burn book kind of throughout the entire book. Like, you know what I mean? And that's one of my beasts. We'll get into it here in a little bit. But um, yeah, what was some of your highlights or favorite moments of the book?
Um, so I guess highlights and favorite moments of this book.
You just mentioned how much you like the author's writing style. So I
For
mean, that would
sure.
be
I mean,
definitely
yes, because it's unique and it's different.
definitely
And again, I wasn't really prepared for it to be written like a memoir, So like we
same.
go into it first chapter or so, we learn that Hadrian's older and he destroyed the sun, and I'm like, oh, that's why it's
Mhm.
called the Sun Eater series. Makes sense.
Yep.
Because I didn't like piece that together. I just thought that was
Right.
a cool title, cool or cool like way to name a series. But he destroyed the sun, and he was like, I'm gonna tell y'all a story basically, like how I got to this point and where I'm at. And he started just started right back from when he was a teenager at home and just going through his life story like an autobiography. And I'm like, that's cool. I like this. And I was
Hadrian's
interested.
memory is on point.
Adrian's
To,
memory is on
to
point.
really have to
He
write all
don't
that
miss a
stuff.
beat.
Yeah,
He
real
don't miss a
talk.
beat, man. I can't like, especially because he's old. And when I say old, guys, he like traveling through space, like that's how much in the future it is. They have to get put to sleep because they're traveling galaxies and stuff like that. So, like,
Right.
I don't know, I do not have an exact age on Hadrian by any means, but I think he's over 1,000 years old, right? So,
No,
like,
I just and Howling Dark that I'm reading right now, he just said that he's over 1,500. So he's definitely he's
boom.
yeah.
Okay, there we go. So it's like, and he's remembering everything 1,500 years ago. It's like, hey, yeah, right. I can't remember
Yeah,
last week.
literally. Real shit.
So, I mean,
I
so
also
I like the writing style. That's
yeah,
one.
I do
Uh,
too.
Standout, I guess, moment within the book just reading was, and I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but basically Hadrian going through his life, he starts out as a teenager, he leaves home and he does not get to his normal destination, and he wants to he leaves home and he runs away from home, I guess, and he has to hide who he is. And
Mm-hmm.
he goes through so many trials and tribulations, like
Crazy.
bad trials and
Brutal.
tribulations. And at a certain point, he has to stand up for himself and for his girl, he's crushing on a little bit. And they tried to, like boy, they tried to sun him a little bit, and he had to like lay it out to him and let him know, like, actually, this is
Yep.
who I am, and I got that right, kind of thing. And
Yep.
so that was easily
Mine
my
too.
favorite part of the book
Mine
itself.
too.
Um,
It was the only moment in
because
the
I was
book
waiting
where
for it. I'm like, let's go.
yeah, exactly. And it's the only moment in the book to where you even feel anything towards the characters. Um, Speaking of the characters, this is not a book that you're going to love the characters. Even the main character,
Thank you.
Hadrian Marlowe. Um, he's cool. He has moments where you like him, and then you're kind of like and then you're like, okay, he's cool again, and then you're like like kind of a crybaby, kind of a bitch. But then he'll do something that's like, okay, cool. Um, but yeah, man, this was and me personally, I'm a big character guy. So not only am I a big character guy, but I usually like to have a favorite character, and
Yep.
then I like a lot of other characters on
Yep.
how they base themselves with my favorite
The
character.
main character.
So
Yep.
exactly. So
Yep.
not having a favorite necessarily character in this book kind of did diminish it a little bit. But it's the world building. So I mean that comes, that just comes with it. I do wish he would have threw a little not less world building, but a little more entertainment in the
Big time.
book. You know what
Because
I
it's
mean?
like you mentioned earlier, it's a slow burn.
The
It's not
whole entire way.
it's not I don't even because I don't want to say boring because that's just bad. It's not a
It's not
boring.
boring.
it's just a slow burn because it really is.
Yeah,
He's building a world, and I guess it's because it's from Hadrian's perspective as he's telling his life, and he's telling it. I mean, he's going through his life, so it's like everything is not exciting, and I gotta
yeah.
live through like this. This is what I lived through, and this is what it is,
And I'm sure it
which
all
it
it,
helps.
it exactly, and it all adds up in the end. Like it's
It
just the
sure
first
does.
book, so it'll all come together.
It
I
will.
definitely trust the author, and that's the key here. It's not I trust the author, and I trust the people who recommended the
Big.
books for me to keep going.
They
So
haven't steered me wrong yet, and the book
no,
talkers that I've, it's like
yeah.
they've only given me heat.
And the series that they compared it to, like the Red Rising and stuff that I've already have read that I love, um, that's a tough comparison.
It's a
So
hard, it's hard to try to compare it to for me, especially like you meant. I love Red Rising, so it's like an entertainment level is peak for me. So like
yeah,
going into this and knowing that it's being compared to Red Rising, I definitely had lower expectations for this first book, but I definitely wanted more entertainment. So
yeah.
I guess that would be one of the things I didn't love so much about this book. I do wish it was more entertaining. Um, I have the foresight of I've read a few more than Hunter has. So knowing it now, like what it leads to, it makes the first book a lot better.
You
Um,
you know what this book series might kind of remind me of?
what?
Game of Thrones. Because Game of Thrones season one is a lot of world building, dog, to where like it is not the most entertaining show to watch. It's just not.
It's so funny because I
And
just
the
disagree so much, especially
no,
because after
no,
I've rewatched, like I watched the first season 3 or 4 times now, and it's like I love the first season of Game of Thrones. It's not
but
as
do
good
you
as like the sixth, seventh season, but like
but do you love the first season because of you already know how the whole entire show goes, so you can kind of look back at characters and see them in them then stages of their life, or do you just think that because I just objectively do not think season one. I've seen season one twice now, and it's just not. It's not
yep,
bad. It's good TV. It's good. It's
still
done.
good. I disagree with
Yeah.
your opinion on that one, but
Yeah.
um, maybe that's how like again, I like the first book. It's a slower burn.
Yeah.
It's not as good as some of the other books, but season one of Game of Thrones is not as good as some of the other seasons. So,
Right, and that's kind of why I compared it to
yeah,
just because Game of Thrones has seasons where they're
like
just so
top
crazy, or they're just exactly, and no one ever says Game of Thrones season one is the ones. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So,
Um,
um,
yeah, man. And what I like to think about this book is like if I ever were to go back and read it, I would enjoy it way more. Especially like
once you're where you're at for yeah, you're on the
for
fourth
sure,
book,
just
right?
because I
Fifth
know
book.
like there's certain stuff that they kind of like they explain a little bit, but it's like you don't really understand because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And as Hadrian's telling the story, because again, it's as a memoir, he's telling it like he's telling it how he experienced it, but he also already knows because
Right.
he lived
It's
through
his
it.
life. Right.
Yeah. So we're kind of in that weird area of not knowing at the time of reading, but like now that I've read past it and look, I could almost read it as like him, like
Right.
live through it now, and I know what it comes to, at least to a certain extent, because I'm not fully caught up. But it definitely throughout the first book, at least a little bit. I understand a lot of stuff that I was a little confused about because again, it is
Right.
science fiction and the author does a good job with it, but there's stuff that I don't understand. I mean, you're traveling through space, you're experiencing different planets, different atmospheres,
Yeah.
and it gets sciencey.
Yep, I think that's with most sci-fi slash fantasy books. You know, the same thing was with Red Rising. I'm sure the same thing was with the Way of the Kings or the
Yep.
Stormlight, whatever it's
Yep.
called. It's
The Way the King's the
when
first.
you're first reading it, you're like, there's new words, there's new.
Yep.
It's a
Oh
new
yeah.
world, so you're like, I don't know what this means. You don't even know what to envision it, kind of. And then
Yep.
once you read, two, three more books, and you're like, oh, okay. So if you went back and read it, we
You
said that about Red Rising. If we went back and
for
read the
sure.
Red
We
Rising,
like the first book of Red Rising. I
a
actually
lot more.
seen
Yeah.
a video of somebody kind of bashing the first Red Rising book, and I'm like, I like the first one, but and I think I would like it a lot more reading it again. But he was just bashing it. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
I did
almost
not
took
think
that
that.
a little personal because
Right. Yeah,
again,
that's not a bad book at all.
I hold Red Rising in like that's personal to me, man. I really I love that series. I love the book.
Big.
Um, I guess as far as I mean, speaking of characters a little bit, like Christopher isn't, or maybe I don't even want to know if I want to blame Christopher. I almost want to blame Hadrian since it's his memoir. It's like, um, I mean. and again, it's so early on in Hadrian's life. He's 1,500 years old at around that age now, as he's writing it. But at the time of the first book, he's 30, maybe. So, I mean, it starts at like a maybe a
Yeah, I
19,
think he's
20 year old,
35. Yeah,
35 years old. So it's like just this little speck in Hadrian's life. Uh,
yeah,
so the people that are in this book, I mean, they some of them stay throughout the books, which is nice. He part of this book, some one of the trials, I guess he has to be a gladiator a little bit and forced to fight and stuff to survive. And the people he meets are cool, but they're not like we don't know enough about them. And so it's hard to care about people you don't know.
right. Yeah,
So I do I mean, the book was long enough, but I don't know. I wish there was parts of this book that helped me like the other characters a little bit more
right. Maybe a little bit more backstory into some of the
to
other
care
ones.
about them a little bit more.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I agree.
Yep. Cool. Let's see. Do I think we just go into these questions now?
Hold
Uh,
on, pause.
yep.
About to cut the.
And actually pause it. I'm not going. All right. Let's see. Before we get into the next portion of it, you got anything else you want to add about favorite moments, highlights, world building, anything like that?
Nah, I don't think I do.
All right. Well, then let's get into these questions. We'll probably try to keep this about the same questions every time we do a review. But one
Yep.
of the questions is, if you could have a conversation with the author, what would you ask them?
Um, so my question is pretty broad, and I would ask it for multiple authors. But with this book being such a slow burn, um, I always wonder if when people write a series of books, a six, seven long books like this, do they have the end in sight? As far as when he wrote this first idea of the book,
You know
did
how
he
it's
already
going.
know how it would end, or did he know that the third book was going to be like? Did
Oh,
he know? Did he go into this thinking, okay, book one just going to be world building, and I'm just going to keep it at that, and then I'll get to the shits later on. So that's what I'll ask him, only
that's a good
because
question.
hasn't too much happened to where it was like, oh my god, I need to know. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah,
did he
that's
just like write the first book and see how it was perceived and then go into a second book just like based off that? Or did he already kind of have like a full, not script, but
like an
like,
outline.
yeah, a full
Yeah,
outline of all these books, or at least, okay, here's where we're starting, here's where I want to get to, and then
right.
just throwing stuff in there, throwing in there.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
would like if I had to assume, I would think
a
that he
lot
had some
today.
type of idea, but I would still like to know his thought process of them ideas
That's a good question. I
because he has been pushing these books out every year, a book a year.
Impressive. Yeah,
That's
and there's
super impressive.
almost no way that he didn't have an idea of the book prior to like,
Right.
yeah. I mean, outside of him maybe already having the first couple books written before he ever even released the first one, that would help with like putting out the books. But
That's
even
true.
still, he would still have to, hopefully, I would assume, at least if I were to answer that question for him, I think he already has an idea just from reading the other sets of books. It's like there's just no, because they start to connect. They really connect.
Right.
So it's like,
And I did see something. I think it was book three and four, maybe four and five. One of the books, I guess, where he wrote at the same time, and it was supposed to be one book, and he split them up.
that
So
makes sense
maybe,
though, because 3 and 4 is the one,
yeah. So it was one. It was one
man.
iteration of it. So yeah. What about your question?
Um, I'd want to know because so I've read sci-fi books before, but not very many. And I mean, I get yes, this gets compared to Red Rising, but really, when I think of sci-fi, I almost really and you didn't end up finishing it yet, but you will, is Project Hail Mary. And
Yeah,
very sciencey stuff in that, right? Like,
big
but I
time.
know from, I guess, just hearing it around or whatever, that the author was like a rocket scientist. Maybe not
Yeah,
specifically that, but like he was
Andy
a
Weir. Yeah,
scientist. Like he was
yep,
a smart man, and he can talk about that. But
yeah,
this is really sciencey as well. And there's a lot of space travel. There's a lot of
yeah.
not time dilation, but like I'm sleeping. Like I got like I mean, I guess there is like,
There's a
especially
lot of stuff
towards
that I don't know. Like,
exactly. And it's just
yeah,
like, all right, like what were you doing before you were writing Christopher?
yeah,
Like how'd you know? Like so that I mean that would be one of the questions I'd ask for sure. There's definitely a handful of questions I'd ask him, but that'd be one for sure
yeah.
because it's like, yeah,
He looks smart.
he does
He
look
looks like
smart. He
he
looks
looks
smart,
like.
but he also looks like an author. So it's like, and
That's
maybe
true.
authors just look smart.
Yeah.
Some of them at least.
That's very true.
So that would be my question. What like or maybe he had somebody in the room helping him with it, somebody that did understand the stuff he wanted. Like, this is the idea I have, and this is what I want to write about. This is the story. How do I write it in a way that it makes sense for people that do understand space travel, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause
Um,
if I was trying to write a sci-fi like that, just
oh, maybe
I
someone
it,
would call me out because I don't know enough.
yeah, someone would literally
I would
call me out and
miss
say, did you just make up numbers? Did you just make stuff up? And
Yes,
I'm
I
like,
did.
yeah, yeah, yes, I did, dude.
Okay. Cool, cool. All right. Now, this is a newer question that I wanted to throw at you, but if you could steal one thing from this book's world, what would it be? Or you can always say nothing, nothing interests you, but
Um, you go ahead. Let me
that's
think
cool.
on
That's
this real
cool.
quick.
Yeah. And I guess as I ask this question, I mean, steal something from the book's world, bring it into our current world. Uh,
Right.
Originally, I was going to say that high matter sword that
Yeah.
book. It's the book or the sword on the front cover.
Yeah.
Cuts through anything, basically. Cool sword. And then I thought, what would I do with that in this?
Right.
I'm like, that's not going to do me
Right.
any good. I would hurt myself.
Right. Yeah. That's
So I decided on a cool spaceship that can travel through space like it does. Um, and I would bring that here. I don't know if I would actually go travel through space or anything like that, but what I would do is probably um, bringing that technology to this world, our world,
game
would
changer.
game changer. It would
Yeah.
advance civilization crazy.
Yeah.
To where like again, we mentioned that Adrian's 1,500 years old, right? Like, and he still looks like he's 30, 40, 40,
Right.
50 maybe years old, but like he's 1,500 years old. So like bring
Yeah.
technology, maybe that it advance a little bit. Maybe I can live a little longer. Maybe I can look a little younger. Something like that. I don't know.
So I would probably bring in and not necessarily for myself because it is a little weird, but we didn't really get into it. But Hadrian's a Palatine.
Yep.
So Hadrian is made in a lab
Yep.
of his genetics of his mom and dad. They didn't have sex. She didn't carry him.
No love.
No love, no none of that. They was brought together because they're royalties of their families and they had good genetics, good bloodline, and said, "Hey, let's mate." So that would be kind of crazy in this time because I know like there's we hear about like the Yao Mings
People.
and the like people who are like, oh, they're in they're made in a lab. No,
Yep.
but this is like for real
He's
made
really
in a
made. He's
lab.
literally made in a lab.
Yeah, and like
He's
and
tall. He's handsome. He's like his body's perfect. If he loses a tooth, it grows right back. Like to where
exactly.
he's able to live that long.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So I would bring something of that. If not that, I would maybe bring in the fugue state machine. Um,
oh,
we
yep.
we've
Because
talked about the fugue state is where you basically go to not sleep, but you get like what would you say chilled, like
you get
chilled,
frozen. Like it
frozen,
freezes your body a little bit.
frozen for a
For
time
lack
to
of better
where
terms, but yes,
yeah, we could get frozen right now in our state of being for 100 years, and then
easily
wake up
1,000 years
100 years,
if we wanted to.
thousand, well, yeah, exactly, and then wake up and still have look exactly the same, be this
Exactly.
age,
Or maybe have
and
a little headache.
right, oh, for sure have a headache. There's yeah, they be waking up crushed. But yeah, that technology right there would be crazy and it would give an option for, older people, rich people, all
Yep.
type of people to, hop in the fugue state and wake up 1,000 years and see where the earth's at.
Yep. Okay. I like it. I like it. I mean, I'm cool with either one of our things because it does seem to like we're trying to bring that science to our world, basically,
Definitely.
to level,
Definitely.
which
Yeah.
we
I mean, they're 25,000 years ahead of us. So
yeah, yeah.
it's fucking ridiculous. Right.
All right. Were you satisfied with the ending or nah?
I forgot about this question. Was I satisfied with the ending? No. I wasn't satisfied because an
Yep,
ending is supposed to have some type of crescendo,
for sure.
right? It's supposed to, well, how I look at a movie, a TV series,
Wrap something up like there's like
any art, and that's the thing. I'm not going to say he left anything unwrapped. He didn't. It's not like he left like on a cliffhanger
we just
necessarily.
didn't get a peak though. It just like
Right. We did
there was no
exactly.
that we didn't get any like typically the typical book or music, whatever, movie, TV show, whatever, like it builds up to something and then it start like that you hit that peak, the
Everything wraps
climactic.
up. There's a twist sometimes. It's always like a, oh, or
What
the twist
happened
sucks.
was this book
Exactly.
started and then it just stayed even
and
the
just stayed
whole
even.
time. There's
Yeah.
little
So
peaks of cool,
yeah,
ooh, okay, ooh,
like
okay, but like,
right. Like it wasn't a bad ending because he was so safe with it. Because it's not like an ending where we'll say I hated that ending. Because I mean, it's
no,
almost like
it's
there
fine.
wasn't
Yeah, there wasn't an ending.
exactly.
It didn't end. Let's read the
It,
second book. Uh,
exactly. So that would
maybe
be my
it's
only
like,
beef with it.
I guess how I would look at it is that's how the a book or movie typically is. It builds up and then comes down for a satisfying ending. We're still on the climb, baby.
Yeah,
Still
and
on the
that's
climb,
and I
and
like
that's
that.
cool.
That's
We are
cool with
still on
me.
the climb.
I'm cool.
These are it's multiple books, but it's just one big old giant book, and
Right.
still on the climb
Yep.
for
And that's
sure.
cool with me. What
So
would you out of 5 stars? What would you rate it?
okay, that's a right into the ratings. Before I give my rating, I thought it'd be a good idea to tell you the audience us to talk about what it's rated on Goodreads.
Okay. Yeah. Big time.
I think that's I mean, just a good idea
Yeah.
to
Just
compare
compare.
to
Yeah.
compare it to. So on Goodreads, Empire Silence is a 4 out of 5.
Just a solid 4.
Solid 4, not 4.1 for it's 4.0 out of 5.
Okay.
And I'm fine with Goodreads rating. Mine's is a little lower, but not by much. I'm right in between like a 3.5 and a 4. So I guess I'll say a
3.75.
3.7.
Right. Yeah.
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 That's where I'll leave that at. What about you?
Um. Yeah. I'm at about a 3.5. So we're kind
Okay.
of at the same. It's an above average book for
For
sure.
sure.
It's an above average book for sure. If we're looking at 5 as an average book,
Well,
7 is right where it's
2.5.
or 2.5. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. If we're looking at 2.5 as a average book, um,
It's above average.
it's above average and
Good
it's a
writ.
good book.
It's a
And
good
it's a
book.
good book, and that's what a 3.5 to me is.
Yep.
It's not a
It's
great
not a
book.
5. It's
It's
not a
not a
5.
5,
That's for sure.
and
It's
it
not a
damn sure didn't break the scale. So
No, there's a couple books that'll get you over a 5, but that wasn't.
mhm,
This isn't one of them.
no,
But yeah, okay. So we're right there at the same.
yeah.
Maybe I'm a little higher because I'm 3.75 for sure, but we're right around each other.
And with my rating to take in, I'm not a lover of world building books. Some people love world building,
They
you
do,
know,
but
and
you're a
I'm one of them
character guy.
guys
I'm a
who,
character guy.
yeah, exactly. I'm
I
one of
like
them guys
action.
who,
I like fun.
yep, I like turn shit. That's what I
Yeah, I
like.
like
I
to get
like,
in my seat and turn up.
yeah, I like when shit goes down,
Yeah,
and I'm
me too.
like, that's what I like. So, I'm
All
I,
right.
I'm definitely looking forward to this series though. So it did its job as far as it did its job to keeping me entertained enough, and for me in my life now, like I said, I don't know if this was the only book out right now, I'd probably put it down for a while,
Yep.
but it's not the only book out,
Well,
and
we're lucky. We got that hindsight.
we got that hindsight.
Or
So I'm glad to know that this story is only just beginning, and
and
that's
we know that it gets better, which is
and we
love.
know
I
exactly,
mean, if we're gonna trust, the people we trust in anything, basically,
exactly.
we do. So
Yep.
cool. All right. Would you or who? What type of book people, I guess, would you recommend this to? Like, who would you recommend this book to? Would you recommend
Sci-fi.
it at all? Okay,
Sci-fi. That's it. That's literally it for me. I would
I
not
feel you.
recommend this book to if you don't love sci-fi
Or space travel. You're
or
not.
space travel, space opera,
Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess like again, never seen Star Wars. Do not kill me, audience. I've never
Yeah.
seen it, but I know that Christopher took a lot or created this book with Star Wars in mind, like big
Yeah.
influence. I
Yeah.
should say.
And the same thing goes for Dune. And we've never read Dune, but we've seen the movies Dune,
Seen the movie, so
and I enjoy the movies a lot.
yeah.
So
So if you like Dune, or
yeah.
like you said, sci-fi, space, I
Yep.
mean, you like those kind of books, this book is for you. You will love
Yep.
this for without
Yep.
a doubt. And again, this is not a bad book by any means. I like this book a lot. I read the second one immediately. I actually did like Hadrian. There's definitely times where I was a little annoyed with him, but I liked the biggest thing for me is how the story's told, and I'm so interested in like how are you here right now when you've gone through all this? What happened to where you're at that call? I mean, I know you destroyed the sun, but like what's happening
Right. Yeah.
throughout this book? He does not want war. He really doesn't. He's trying to
No.
stop it. He wants everybody to live in peace. Like
Yep.
he's trying to like let's talk about this. We can come to a
Yep. He's a
common
good
ground.
guy.
He's a good guy.
He's a
So it's
good
like,
guy.
how are you? What happened to get you to that point?
To that.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
um, Yeah, man. If you guys like sci-fi or Dune, Star Wars, stuff like that, you'll like this book. If not, this is, yeah, you will not like this book
You ain't
at
gonna like, yeah, I
all.
don't think so.
All right.
And I wouldn't ruin one of my recommendations if you don't. So
Big time. Go ahead and read something else that you know you'll like for sure
yeah,
before you try to jump into something like this.
facts.
All right. Before we wrap it up, you got any extra thoughts you want to throw in there?
Um, I also wouldn't recommend to someone who's just getting into reading. If you haven't read in a few years, like it was just we us a year ago, um, this is not the first book you want to read. This is
Nah,
not the first book. You might not even finish it. So this is for people who like sci-fi and
like to read
like to read.
and been reading, yeah,
And,
for sure.
exactly. So, but nah, that's it. That's all I had to add.
Okay, I like that. I like that. All right, so let's see. This is where we leave you. And if you made it this far, we appreciate you and we hope that you continue watching us.
Facts.
Um, after hearing this, watching this, do you plan on reading or starting do you plan on reading more or do you plan on starting the Sun Eater series? If you've already read the book, what did what did you love about the book? Did we do a
Right.
good job? Did we do it justice? How do you feel? Do you share how we feel or you feel differently? We also take recommendations. So please give us some book recommendations so we can add it to our TBR. Our
Yep.
TBR list is very
Never
long.
ending.
And
Yeah.
maybe your recommendations are already on our TBR list, and that your recommendation could bump it up.
Yep.
So give that to us. And then, if you did enjoy this episode, please, please, please like and subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you know when we post the next episode. And a little hint for our next book, the author's name is M.L. Wang or Wang.
Mm. Mm.
Peace.
Boom. Yep. Wow. That's cool. Perfect.